What is going on, everybody? I am back in the land of the living. I appreciate everybody's prayers and kind thoughts and words. This flu this year, man, it just really leveled me. It's been a long time since I've been that sick. I was actually down and out of work for a couple days. Should have taken a few more than I did, but such is life. Life's got to go on. So anyway, you'll have to forgive me if I get a little croaky or something during this video. I am still on the tail end of things. I am not completely over everything, but I do appreciate all your thoughts and your prayers. So that out of the way, let's go ahead and get into today's video. It's been a long time coming. It's been about 2 weeks almost since I released my first video in this series of my top 5 window managers, that being number 5. And if you watched that video, you'll know that was Spectre WM. If you haven't watched that video, I highly suggest you check it out. It's just a real brief overview of Spectre WM and why I like it and why I keep it installed on my system. So that being said, let's jump into today's video of number 4. If you're looking at my screen, you can probably guess based on my bar which window manager this is. My number 4 choice is going to be DWM. Now, DWM was higher up on my list. It was bumped by one other window manager that we will be going over in the next few days, but that is not a slight against DWM in the least. DWM is a spectacular window manager. It was one of the first window managers I learned, even though per the Suckless devs, it's not a beginner's window manager, but it is one of the ones that is one of the more common and more popular. So if you'd run into issues, then there's a plethora of help out there for people who need to know how to do things with DWM, because it is just such an amazing window manager and it is extremely, extremely popular. Let's go ahead and go to their website. So if we launch a browser here and we go to suckless.org, that's going to be the website for DWM. And for all Suckless products and projects, all Suckless projects. We've got DWM here. You can also see we've got ST, which is the simple terminal. We have some core stuff here, which is going to be like some scripts and just some init stuff and a few other things going on. We have Surf, which is their browser. I don't highly recommend Surf, but if you want to use nothing but Suckless, it is there and it is available. And we have some other stuff in here under the tools category, like dmenu, which is one I'm sure you're all familiar with. Dmenu is a great tool and a great project. You have Farbfeld, you have Quark, Scroll, Scent, Slock, SL Status, which is a bar. I don't use SL Status on mine. I use DWM blocks, but you can use SL Status, or if you don't even want to use SL Status, you can use xsetRoot in your xinitRC to set your bar that way. And I believe there is a patch. When we go over and look at the patches, we can kind of scroll through and see, but I'm pretty sure there's a patch called AnyBar that allows you to use Lemon Bar or Polybar or anything like that as well. So jumping into DWM, why it made my list is because it has been a solid, reliable, and basically unbreakable outside of my own doing window manager ever since I started using it. It's just like Spectre WM. It's something that's installed on every single one of my setups, no matter what. Once I get it up and going, or once I get my machine up and going, DWM is one of the first ones that goes on. That being said, when I last did my complete rebuild on my Arch system, when I was still on Arch, DWM was the only window manager I put on it for quite a while, actually. And when I say quite a while, for me, quite a while is like a month. So for like a month, I ran nothing but DWM. I had no other window managers on there. I used DWM and DWM only. I used Simple Terminal, and I used dmenu. So I was not quite all Suckless all the way, because I didn't use the Surf browser, but I tried to use as much of the Suckless tooling as I could, and it's a great project, and it is a great window manager. So let's go over to the DWM tab here. And the one thing that is cool about DWM that I like so much is it is a solid window manager, and it is something that isn't overly bloated. Their claim to fame on the Suckless project is that they want, like 2,000 lines of code or less. But that doesn't mean that it's not good even out of the box that way. DWM, you can run with just a few basic tweaks to get a bar with some little bit of information on it. You can run without patching at all. As it comes from the box, you can use it, and it works great, and it is completely usable. But being written in C, if you have any familiarity with C and everything, you can go through here and they have a list of patches. So you can patch whatever you want to on this thing pretty much. That is the one thing that I love about DWM, how completely extensible it is. Whatever you want DWM to do, I'm sure there's a patch for it. If not on their official patch site, there's patches out there by guys like Bakabee or Backabee. I can't remember how you pronounce that, but he's got all kinds of patches. He actually has his own version of DWM called DWM Flexi Patch, so you don't even have to go through the patch process. You just kind of select what you want at install, and it goes ahead and does it for you. But I mean, you have everything on here from actual full screen and alpha for transparency. You have right there, any bar to have any bar you want to use, whether it be lemon bar or poly bar or whatever. Attach bottom, attach below. So when you open a new window, it attaches below. You can attach top, you can auto resize. There's bar tab groups, there's centered window first, there's cycle layouts, there's cursor warp, there's dual status, there's let me see here, extra bar, there's Fibonacci, there's flex tile, there's all these different layouts you can add on. There is just so unbelievably much you can do with DWM. Now, that brings us to the, I guess, quote unquote problem of DWM. If you are a new user or not familiar with C or anything like that, or you don't know how to patch, DWM is going to be very difficult for you. Like I did say at the beginning, there are hundreds upon hundreds of videos out there explaining how to do this and showing how to do this. So there's no shortage of help. But if you're not comfortable doing it, then this is going to be difficult for you, because to add any of these functions into your DWM setup, you have to be willing to patch your configuration files and your source code to actually get this functionality working. That is my downside with DWM. Not that it's a downside for me. I'm able to do it without any issues and get DWM up and working, but it's kind of a downside and a turnoff for new users, which is kind of, I think, what the suckless devs were going for. Like I said, they self-proclaimed not for new users. But as far as other sources of information out there and other sources outside of the documentation that's on their website, I mean, there's plenty of help. That being said, documentation on their website is not much. You go through and it gives you basic descriptions on stuff. These patches, if you click on the patch, it gives you a short description. You can click on the diff here and it'll open up, excuse the bright white, and it'll show you, you have these little minuses and pluses here, and it'll show you that these are ones you're taking out, these are lines you're adding. So if you want to go through and manually patch instead of doing the patching function in your terminal, then you can do that, and you can go through each individual line here and change them. So there is ways to do it, but I mean, some of these patches you can see get pretty big and there's a lot to change and a lot to do. So DWM's customization factor is amazing. Its route to customization is a little bit daunting for people, which is why it doesn't take the top spot for me. Could it? Oh, absolutely. DWM is a great window manager. And I'm going through this top 5 list saying that these are, in order, because they are. These are my favorites from top to bottom, but this could literally go in any order for me. I could live in any one of these top 5 window managers exclusively and be 100% completely happy and completely content with my system and how it works. So DWM, their documentation, not spectacular if you don't know what you're doing, but there is help out there. Documentation is where it gets its kind of lower mark from. If we go over here and we launch a terminal here, let's zoom in. I'm going to cd into suckless, which is in my home jake.config and then suckless location. This is my suckless directory. And if I do an ls, you can see I've got D menu, I've got DWM, I've got DWM blocks, which is my bar up here. I've got my patches here, and then I've got ST. So if we cd into DWM and we do an ls here, you can see we've got config.def.h, config.h. Excuse me. We have all these other, all these files here that when you patch, there needs to be changes made in each of these. So if we go into, and let's go ahead and vim into my config.h real quick. You can see there's a lot to it. It's kind of jumbled. So again, a new user coming in here, not understanding the C language very well, When I first got into this file a few times, I was so overwhelmed. I looked at this stuff going, what in the heck does any of this mean? Now, I'm still not a computer programmer. I'm still not proficient at any of this stuff, but I do know enough about the C language now, looking at things, I can actually go around and I can find what I'm looking for and understand kind of what's going on. So it takes a little time. So if you're a new user, again, probably not one of the window managers I would recommend for you. But once you get a little more comfortable with getting into things and patching and doing stuff like that, then it's definitely one I suggest you check out. So again, documentation, not the greatest. Customization, completely amazing. Configuration files, confusing and kind of jumbled. So that is what puts DWM in the number 4 position for me. Let's go ahead and take a look at my system now. Now you can see I've got the basic layout. Like I said before, I've got DWM blocks up here for my bar. I have changed my icons over here for my tags to icons as opposed to numbers. I can change them back, I believe, if it's if I remember right, Alt N, I can toggle between numbers and my icons. So I've got that. If we go ahead and launch a window, you can see it's got the window title there. This is the layout option. This is master and stack. It's kind of got the master over here in the stack. So if we launch a couple other windows, you can see that we launch in the master and stack. What I like about DWM's master and stack layout is the master window isn't a 50-50 split with the stack. It's more like a 55-45. It just gives you that little bit of extra room, which is nice. I really like that. I don't like the 50-50 split, just because my master is usually the window you're going to be looking at. And so your stack side doesn't really need to be quite as large, in my opinion. You might have a difference of opinion on that. That's completely okay. But for me, the master and stack being split more in a 55-45 or even a 60-40 is my ideal split for master and stack. But that being said, master and stack is my go-to layout. It is my favorite layout to use because I'm not the type of guy that usually has more than 2, maybe 3 windows open tops on my window workspace at any given time. Master and stack works perfect for me. Any more than 2 or 3, and I usually just swap to another workspace and get things going over there as well. So I like the master and stack layout. With patching, you have the ability to add like your scratch pads, which if you watch my videos, you know this is a must-have for me. I have to have my scratch pads. They are just a completely necessary tool for me. They didn't always have to be until I actually learned the power of them and started using them. Scratch pads are just completely amazing. And hey, you know, you might not be a scratch pad user. That's completely fine. You don't have to use scratch pads. You might think they're worthless or not understand the point of them. That's completely fine. I get that. For a long time, I didn't either. I'd see some stuff going on with scratch pads before I started using them, and I was like, you know, I don't really see the point. If I need something, I can just pop open in a terminal window. That's why I have a tiling window manager. I can do what I need to do and I can close it back out. It doesn't need to, I don't need to have a whole new functionality for that. And then I started using them, and that completely changed. So the fact that I can have my scratch pads, I can have multiple scratch pads on DWM. So that's kind of cool, and they're named, so you can launch them. I have master and stack, like I said. I have scratch pads available. You can use multiple bars on there. There's just so much functionality that is available with DWM. Let's actually go back over here and quit out of here, and let's take a look at some of the patches I use. So let's go back one, and we'll do an ls, and let's cd into patches, and let's do an ls there. So I've got my D menu patches over here. So I have the DWM auto start, which allows me to auto start files, or auto start programs and stuff when you launch into DWM. I have bar height, which changes the bar height up here. I have bottom stack. So basically, I believe that one is when you launch a new window, it moves things down to the bottom. I have cycle layouts, so I can cycle through layouts. I have a DWM float border color, so I can have a different color for my floating windows for the border. Focused adjacent tag. Named scratch pads. Status colors, so in my status bar up here, if I want to change and have different colors across the bar, I can have different colors. Title color, so that allows me to have a different colored title name right here. Useless gap, which basically just gives me the gaps you see in between my windows, which I'm hit or miss on gaps. I do like gaps gaps. Most of the time, I don't like massive gaps. I like small gaps, and sometimes I like gaps that are just barely noticeable. My screen real estate being on a laptop is kind of important to me, so gaps aren't really the biggest, most important thing to me, but I do like to have a little bit of a gap. And then we have view on tag. So I've got, those are just a few of the patches I used. I actually rebuilt this DWM system not too long ago. I haven't used it a whole lot, but I usually have a few more patches than this. There's a few other things going on. The problem is once you start patching too much with DWM and you start getting too much stuff going on, it's not that it necessarily breaks, but there's a lot of things that happen. Patching becomes harder, it fails, there's errors, you got to go through and track stuff down. So the more and more stuff you get in there, you can do it, it's just a lot more work. So when you're patching DWM, you want to be real careful and pick stuff that you really know you're going to need and you're going to want, because that makes life a lot easier when you're actually going through and patching and getting your system going. It lessens the chance of breakage, and it really just makes life easier for you. So those are kind of the patches I've got going on with my DWM setup. Again, let's take a look at everything. I've got my master and stack layout here that you can do. I've got my scratch pad open there. I've got my launch window there so I can launch programs. I don't think I have my void source VSP package set up on this one. It's been a while since I've used that, or since I've used this DWM setup, but and then again, my bar, which has my volume here, my battery life here. I've got a script to run and get the weather right here, which tells me right now it's a low of 44 today, high of 48, 0% chance of precipitation. And I've got the date here. I've got updates available here, and I've got my Wi-Fi setting right here. So that's all done in DWM blocks. So if we go back in here and we go back again and CD into DWM blocks, let's clear the screen a little bit. We're getting it cluttered there, and do an LS. You can see DWM blocks is just kind of like your DWM configuration directory. It's got blocks.h and then DWM blocks and DWM blocks.c. This is by a guy named Torrenfail. So if we go over here and launch into our browser again and we say DWM blocks Torrenfail, we can go to his website here and you can see modular status bar for DWM written in C. To use DWM blocks, first run make and then install with sudo make install. After that, you can put DWM blocks in your xinetRC or other startup script you have to start with DWM. Modifying blocks, the status bar is made from text output from the command line program. Blocks are added and removed by editing the blocks.h header file. There's one patch here, it looks like. But if we go back over into here, and let's go into blocks.h and take a look. I guess I should vim into blocks.h. Sorry, my brain's still a little bit fuzzy. You can see here, this is just calling some scripts. I have a script called vol right here. And so inside these curly braces, you put, if you want an icon, you have the icon here. Then you put the command, which is going to run the script vol. And then you can do update interval, which is 1, and then update signal 10. I honestly am going to say that I don't quite recall what the update signal is, but the update interval is in seconds, so every 1 second my volume script, 1 second, huh? That seems a bit. Anyway, then I've got a script called battery, and battery actually has its own icon included in it, so I don't have an icon called there, but it runs the script battery. It updates every 300 seconds. I have my weather script, weather 3. It has icons built into it, so it doesn't use icons here either. It updates every 60 seconds. I got to change that. That's a bit much. I really haven't messed around with this in a while, but I've got clock, which is going to run my calendar right here. It gives me the day and then the date. And then I have pack update, which is a package update script and then I have the icon of the gears that show me how many updates I have. And then I have web 2, which is my Wi-Fi. With this icon, it updates every 30 seconds and shows me my percentage of Wi-Fi connectivity or signal strength. Right here, my pack update updates looks like every hour. So that's a little bit more realistic. I could really even turn that on to like once a day. I really don't need to know how many updates I have every minute of every hour. So that's a bit much. Then down here, you can do a delimiter, which basically is you can have stuff in between each of the blocks. You don't have to, but you can. Other than that, that's how my blocks is set up, my status bar. So that's kind of my DWM setup. Again, I love DWM because it is so extensible. There's just so much stuff you can do with it, and so many ways you can make it completely yours. There's so many patches available out there through DWM, through the Suckless guys on their own, through different other people like Bakeby. Let's go over here real quick and let's check out Bakeby. So it's Bakkeby, I believe. And then we will go into his repositories. And yeah, Steingunner Bakeby. And if you look down here, this is his DWM Flexi Patch. So if you want to install DWM but don't want to patch it on your own, you can do this Flexi Patch version. He's got ST Flexi Patch as well. These are some patches that he has created on his own. There's all kinds of cool stuff in there. He's got DWM Flex or DMenu Flexi Patch, Slock Flexi Patch. So if you're a newer user and you want to be able to install DWM and customize it and everything, but you're scared about doing it on your own, I highly recommend you check out this guy's GitHub. Again, it's Steingunner Bakeby. I don't know how you pronounce that. I apologize if you're watching this video. I highly doubt it. But if you're watching this video and I'm butchering your name, I apologize. But again, that's just another way you can go about doing this. But if we come down here and look at his patches, you can see he's got things that aren't available on the regular Suckless site. So if we go into DWM, these are his patches here. He's got the normal ones like alpha and stuff like that, but he's also got stuff that you can't find there. Bar modules and bar tab groups, I think, was one of them. You could actually move the modules around and put them in different locations, which was kind of cool. And bar padding maybe was one of them. I can't remember. It's been a while since I've kind of gone through his stuff, but definitely check it out if you're a DWM user and you haven't checked out his site or his repos. I definitely recommend checking it out. So that being said, again, DWM, I love it. One of my favorites. Again, one of the ones that's always on my system. Number 4 in my top 5 list of favorite window managers, just recently bumped by one we'll be seeing in the next few days. Now, customization and ability to customize is what makes it so great. Documentation and the process of customizing and how you go through it is kind of what makes it a little bit difficult for me to recommend as a number 1. For the general public, for users who are comfortable with everything, absolutely. I'm sure you're already well aware of DWM and have used it numerous times or whatever, but DWM is definitely one I highly recommend. One of my favorites, one of the best out there. It is great. So again, I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Be on the lookout for number 3. I don't plan on getting sick again, so it won't be 2 weeks before this one comes out. I'm hoping just another day or two and I can get number 3 loaded up and out the door for you. But yeah, that being said, have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your week, and happy holidays coming up to everybody. I hope you're prepared for the festivities and the family and the gathering and everything. So that being said, you guys have a great day. God bless.